Hi, this is Matt with AppliancePartsPros.com. In this video, we're going to show you how to troubleshoot the top 6 reasons why your washing machine won't drain. Stick around to the end of the video for an important washer safety tip that most people don't even know about. But before we begin, we're going to make sure the appliance is unplugged or the circuit breakers are off so there's no chance of electrocution. Also make sure you turn off your hot and cold water supplies. First, we need to look at the drain pump. It's used to remove the water from the tub during the drain and spin cycles. Depending upon your style, you may have a pump that simply has an in and an outlet. Others are more complex and have a motor attached to them. If your washer is not draining, it could be that it's clogged or failed. In general, drain pumps are mounted on the bottom of the washer, but can sometimes be mounted on the motor itself. On older top-load washers, where the pump is mounted on the motor or it's belt-driven, you want to verify that the drive motor is running. If the washer is still not draining, the first thing you want to do is remove the pump and make sure it's not clogged. If there's nothing clogging it and it's being turned by the motor, then more than likely the impeller is damaged and the pump will need to be replaced. On front load washers and newer top loaders that have a separate electric drain pump, you want to take the hoses off and remove the filter screen to verify it's not clogged. If you hear the pump motor running during a drain cycle but it's not draining, that's a good indication that it's clogged or the impeller is broken. You can separate the housing and the motor to see if that's the case. If it's clean and the impeller is intact and you have a washer that has a diagnostic mode and a tech sheet, you may already have an error code that you can troubleshoot. If not, look at the tech sheet for the troubleshooting steps for your specific model. If your washer doesn't have a diagnostic mode, you can look at the wiring diagram to see what your ohm reading is supposed to be for your pump motor. Then set your meter to ohms. Our meter automatically detects whatever ohms are coming in, but you may need to set your meter to read the proper ohm level. Then remove the wires and touch a probe to each terminal. Your ohms reading should be close to the one specified on your tech sheet. If it's not within range or you're not getting a reading at all, then the part has failed and needs to be replaced. If you need to order a part, simply go to AppliancePartsPros.com and type in your model number. Find your part on the easy-to-read diagrams and match it to the number below. Click on the part if you want to see more pictures of the item or watch its repair video. You can also scroll down to see DIY stories from customers like you or ask a question in the Q&A section. Once you're ready, you can add the part to your cart. It's that easy. Most orders will arrive within 2 business days. The next things to look at if your washer won't drain are the hoses that carry the water through the different parts of the washer. There are many hoses inside the washer. If it's not draining, it's possible that one of the hoses is kinked or clogged. So we need to look at the tub to pump hose, the internal drain hose, and the external drain hose. The tub to pump hose is usually located at the bottom of the tub and connects to the drain pump. The internal drain hose goes from the pump to the back wall, and the external drain hose goes from the back wall to the drain. In order to inspect the hoses, you'll have to take the clamps off and visually inspect them to make sure nothing's clogging them up. For external drain hoses, you also want to make sure that it's not kinked, which would restrict the water flow. Also make sure that it's hooked up to the drain according to the manufacturer's instructions. If it's hooked up incorrectly, it could stop the washer from draining. On front loaders, some tub to pump hoses have a check valve ball in them, which if gunked up, will prevent the washer from draining, so you may have to take it out and clean it. Once you make sure the hoses are clear and not kinked, you can reinstall them. Now we're going to check the lid switch assembly. It's a safety device that tells the washer when the lid is closed. There are many different types of lid switch assemblies. On older top-load washers, you could start the cycle with the lid open, but if the switch failed, it wouldn't let the washer go into the drain or spin cycles. They're usually located underneath the washer top. When you close the lid, the strike engages the switch to tell the washer that the lid is closed. First, check the strike to make sure it's not damaged. If it's okay, then we need to check the lid switch for continuity. In order to see if the part can carry an electric current, we need to test it with a multimeter set to continuity. Once you have it set, touch the probes together to make sure it's working. Depending upon your switch type, you'll have to remove the wires or disconnect it from the wiring harness. Then touch a probe to each terminal. With the lid closed, it should have continuity. Then open the lid and the meter should show no continuity. If it doesn't, then the part has failed and needs to be replaced. Now we need to look at the main control board if your washer has one. It controls the functions of the washer after you make your selections. The main control board receives the input from the user interface control board and collects information from sensors, switches, and other controls. It times and initiates the cycles and monitors the functions of the washer. If your washer is not draining, it could be that the board has failed. Depending upon your model, the control board may be mounted on the control panel itself or under the washer top. If the main control board has failed, it may not be sending power to the pump. In order to test it, you'll have to get your tech sheet and follow the troubleshooting steps to determine if you need to replace the board. Your washer may have a specific test for the main control board to see if it's not sending power to the pump. On ours, it just says do the test for the drain pump, and if it's okay, replace the main control board. As always guys, hit those like and subscribe buttons now to help support us making more of these videos. Next thing to check is the timer. It controls the functions of the washer. The timer is a set of contacts operated by one or more cams and driven by the timer motor. If your washer doesn't drain, it's possible that the contacts inside have failed and power isn't being sent to the pump. It's usually located inside the control panel. There are many different timers out there, so you'll have to consult your wiring diagram to see which terminals to test. In order to test it, you'll have to turn the timer so it's at the start of a drain cycle and pull the knob out. Then you're going to have to check the timer wiring harness to determine which terminals on the timer those wires plug into. In our case, we're going to test the blue and the tan wires. Then check the terminals with a multimeter for continuity. If you don't get a reading, then the timer is bad and needs to be replaced. Last thing to check is the pump belt. It goes in between the motor and the drain pump. Some older top-load washers have a belt-driven pump. If the belt is worn or fallen off, the washer won't drain. It's usually located towards the bottom of the washer on the pulleys. If it's worn out or damaged, you'll need to replace it. Now here's that safety tip we promised you earlier. Washing machine fill hose inspection is often overlooked by most people. If your fill hose bursts, it can cause severe water damage to your home. A fill hose can flood your home with up to 500 gallons of water per hour, so it's important to inspect them regularly. Make sure to check the entire hose for any signs of bulging or leaking. Also make sure the fittings aren't corroded. Then shut off the water and look at the washers and screens inside. If they're clogged, you can just clean them out, but if they're rusted or damaged, you'll need to replace them. When you reinstall them or put new ones on, make sure the hose fittings on each end are tight so you don't get any leaks. There are many different types of hoses. The most common ones are rubber or braided stainless steel. Rubber is the most common type of hose, but if you want extra burst protection because of where the washer is installed, it's recommended that you upgrade to the stainless steel type. Some of the newer systems even have an auto shut-off feature that shuts the water off if a leak or change in pressure is detected. Regardless of the hose type or the warranty it has, it's important to check them at least 1 to 2 times a year because they can fail at any time. Once you take care of the problem, you can plug the appliance in, turn the water back on, and take it for a spin. Thanks for joining us for another troubleshooting video brought to you by AppliancePartsPros.com. Remember to hit the like and subscribe buttons now, and if you have any questions or want to share how your repair went, leave a comment down below.